wrong with, in some sense, appealing to emotion.
We're just going to do
we just have to be
quick.
Yeah, I mean, we just have to be clear about what
unboxing.
we mean. Like, there's senses where obviously not. Like,
two
I mean,
of
there's
the
tons of arguments
animals.
that I can
One
make
has
that are
a
just sound, logical arguments
seal
that start
on
with
it.
a proposition that's something about
This
your
one has,
values
and
or
this
what you
is a
care
panda.
about.
We've
Like,
had the panda
you know,
before.
if
And this
you
is
prefer
the
not to see
Play-Doh.
sentient beings stabbed to death
Play-Doh.
and all else held constant, this action increases the amount of sentient beings that
So
are
let's
stabbed
do
to
one
death.
of the animal ones
Then
first.
you'll
Quick
have,
unboxing.
you know, to the like the same A4TR argument, to the degree that you
My match is a little
have a
hot.
preference against the death stabbing,
So
you have
let's
a
do the
preference against
panda
this action.
first.
Like, I mean, you can make that all formally valid and set it up nicely, but the point is just that you can build tons of arguments that are perfectly sound and that have a premise in them that's about values. In fact, how the fuck do you ever make an argument about values
Jesus
ever
Christ,
if
it's
you can't do that?
2026.
Because then you're talking about crossing the Azot gap.
Watch Dominion
Yes,
online.
so
I mean, how do you start
Are we
from,
still
from
fucking
premises like
thinking
world
that we need
is,
to be doing this to
exists
animals?
and animals suffer,
for food
therefore
and-
you obviously
we
like you
have
have to have a
fucking
value thing in
planes.
premises to be able to get to the conclusion. You also have to have like it's bad to do
Anyway.
so and so.
Yeah.
So no,
Here's
so it
the
depends what we mean. But there's
First
also
one, the new
different. There's other
hinged.
things that might be called
Yes,
an
'cause
appeal to
people were
emotion that
swallowing
are
half the cats.
fallacious. I'm trying to think
And
of like
this
an
one,
example.
it looks like
Like,
a whale.
Well,
like a
I guess
hammerhead
there's like
shark.
appealing to
That's pretty cool.
consequence, where I guess it's not necessarily an appeal to consequence. You might be some of these fallacies like butt up against each other. You could have a case where like
So let's
you
get her together
you
here.
say that
And there's a little pedestal.
I don't know.
which
You like try to
you put it
imply
on.
that something is
And
false
only 3
because
pieces.
one has a particular emotional
Can you do
reaction
it
to it or
without getting
something.
instructions
Like
out?
you are grossed out by I don't know, like
There
you're
we go. That's pretty cool.
like
It's got
I don't
a
know
little
exactly how to set it up, but the
painted
point
on
is
side.
you could set up something where it's not like it's not
He
that
sees
the
it.
emotional
Yeah.
thing is not
Okay.
connected in any
Proper
meaningful
analysis.
logical way to what's going on.
Pretty
Like how do they
funny, it's pretty
define
cool.
how do they define
And
the
there's a
fallacy?
little
Do they
stand
define
for
it
it.
in a way that's kind of retarded
I
and
won't stand for
what's
this.
that?
I get it.
appeal to emotion, and where
Retarded
it just
is
like
a trope.
sounds like it's also saying that making arguments that start with values is bad.
Okay,
Arguing to
so
emotion
that's
is
number
an
one.
informal fallacy characterized by manipulation
Number
of
two,
the
we'll do
recipient's
the
emotions
play
in
to
order to
do,
win an
whatever that
argument.
means.
Like what's
Play
yeah, that's
do.
kind of vague, especially in the absence of factual evidence. Yeah, I could kind of see this like for instance, leveraging the
I
fact
actually
that someone
always
is
I
like
liked
scared
the
of
chocolate when I
something
was
to make
younger.
them
'Cause
think
it was
that
kind of
you know it's
kinda
false
weird,
that thing is good for you.
kinda
Maybe with like the vaccines or something like that. Like that
acrid
could fall under
kind
this
of
sort of
flavor from
description
the
because like the factual
sour
evidence
milk.
isn't there,
Like the
and
white
you're
always
sort
seemed.
of trying to leverage their
now it's
emotions
just
in the
gross.
absence of evidence to get them to some sort of
You
conclusion.
can't go home.
Yeah, but I mean, that sounds like certainly in a lot of
Said
cases
that.
would be problematic. So it's just one of these things where like you have to understand with the informal fallacy. Like there's the different fallacies, right? There's
all
the
a bunch of
formal ones and the
fucking-
informal
the
ones.
whole
The formal ones are all just about
game
logical
is
structures.
rigged.
They're just kind of like trivial
Anyway, so
facts
here's
about how
your fucking
inference works.
car.
But the informal ones are all like kind of gritty, like human language, like some of them are hard to exactly
Where's it?
characterize.
Let's get the instructions
So-
out.
I think sometimes they get defined in a way where it's like, oh, well, I can picture a case of this that are actually good, or like I can, and you kind of have to tease out the right way to represent it. But anyway, hopefully I gave enough example that it's kind of like, okay, there's obviously cases where emotions come up in arguments, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you have to do that to make certain
Here we go.
kinds of arguments. You have to start from values, or else you're crossing
Good
the odd gap. And then
Good
there's
enough.
cases where it's not, where like just to take one obvious case, like the facts don't support your view. You know someone is scared of a certain thing.
And
You try to
last one,
leverage their
under
fear in
animal.
some way to prompt them into believing something there's not evidence for. That seems like a
And
fallacy.
this chocolate is a little bit fresher.
Okay, yeah,
so-
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of
Does.
sense. So there is a legitimate,
Here's the last one.
or
Right.
rather, it's
750.
not illegitimate to
Oh,
appeal
it's
to
the
emotion
fucking
in
same one exactly.
sentence, or rather
That's
to
funny.
like
It's exactly
when
the
you
same
have a
one.
premise which
Yes.
includes
Here's the
some
thing.
emotional
Here's
evaluation
the
or some
hammerhead
preference.
shark.
Nuance.
Um,
I get it.
So we're
And then
trying
the
to
thing
put
about-
that together.
part where it would be,
Nothing.
I guess, dishonest or
Everything's
informally fallacious
Einstein
is
says
if the
Good night,
Um,
sweet prince.
is the manipulation part, right? It's like the deception part to do with
You're
emotion. So
traveling through another dimension.
an invention not only of
I'm
sight and
trying to think
sound,
what that
but
could
of
be.
mind.
In
A
case
journey
vegan argument.
through
It was
a
thinking
wondrous
maybe
land
we were
whose
talking about animals,
boundaries
but actually
are
we know
that
animals
of
can't be conscious and
imagination.
do
You
stuff.
might stop
Something like that.
the twilight
Oh.
zone.